Hiya, you're right. Hi, everyone.
Hello and welcome to the Steve Kalish Show. I'm joined as usual by Kevin Harris. Kevin, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You sure? Yeah. Alrighty. And we're also joined by a special guest, James Lees. James, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, thanks, Steve.
Oh, mate, hey, it's a pleasure to have you on today. Now, audience, I don't know if you'll ever be able to see it, but somewhere, George, the producer, is here.
Hello.
Hi, George.
Don't try and talk. You're not allowed to talk to the audience anymore.
Just sit in your corner and shush.
So today, it's the usual format. If you're just joining us, or if you haven't listened for a few episodes, then we've changed the format a little bit. The show now is about our collective re-education. We want to be not stupid men no more, which is good. So me, good England's, and we're trying to, and you can see it's a necessary thing. We're trying to re-educate ourselves. We're trying to learn things. We're trying to teach each other things each week to be more well-rounded human beings and help each other on our psychological and spiritual journeys. Do you think
I
that's
love
fair?
how you dress that up. We've changed the format, aka we have a format.
Oh yes, yeah. We're not just sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall anymore. But now we're structured.
Yes.
And James has very kindly agreed to come and be a part of the show because he's got
Interesting things to tell
wow,
us.
interesting. Yeah, like James, you're like a surprisingly interesting dude. Sounds almost offensive, doesn't it? But whenever like
That bloke was fucking boring.
well, that's my sort of default setting. But every time I talk to you, like I think I said to you yesterday, whenever I talk to you, you reveal something casually new and spectacularly interesting about yourself. So we're going to explore some of that today.
Yeah,
but we're going to go through the usual Steve Kalish Show motions. So first up is not nebulous questions. It is, what have we learned? No, what have we been doing this week? And the first section today is, what have we been doing this week? Doesn't sound very good, that name, does it? It needs to be peppier.
Absolutely nothing.
What have you been up to?
What have you been up to since we last?
What you players been doing? Yeah, slap some cool on it for the demographic. So this section is what on earth have we collectively been doing this week in our lives?
What have we done this week? Oh, what have we been doing?
We'll start with you, Kev. What have you been up to?
I have spent this week learning some stuff from an IT platform for a job that I thought I had until 3 hours ago when they said, actually, we've moved departments and we're not hiring you guys now.
Audience, I should warn you, Kev is spiraling. He's in no fit state to be producing a show and hosting a show at the moment, but we're keeping him here through loyalty. So, Kev, other than that, has anything sort of positive happened this week?
No, honestly, this week was one of those weeks where...
And I'm sorry about that as well.
No.
But like I said to you just now, when the Lord closes a window, he opens a door.
The Lord owes me more than a few. Normally we chat in the week, don't we? And we say, oh, yeah, we've done this, and I send you something. But I literally, this week, has been like someone sucked the life out of me. I haven't had the chance or the time to learn anything. I haven't spoken to you, anything this week. Yeah. I'm actually really disappointed in myself.
Yeah, but that's okay.
I tried to better myself instead and failed miserably, so I'm going to stop doing that now.
Well, but maybe it's a case of this. Whatever the next opportunity is going to be. Wow, I'm so glad that other one didn't work because I wouldn't have this. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes these
bright
things.
Side, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got to. Otherwise, it all falls apart in here.
Yes.
James, what about you, mate? What have you been doing this week?
I mean, to be honest, I do find there's a little bit of pressure in that question, seeing it is only Tuesday. And
there is that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're pressuring
last
me
week?
Well, yeah.
I should have done more with my week.
You've already got to fill your Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
How dare you waste a Monday?
What have you done last week?
I did a bit of... so I've done a loft conversion at my house, so...
Nice.
Yeah, I've been doing some work on that. Other than that, just working and looking after the kids. You know,
have you had any problems with asbestos? Or whatever it is that happens up in the loft?
No, it's a new build house. So
it was 1999. They don't have asbestos in things.
I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know anything about anything. What I do is, if my brain goes, remember that word, asbestos? I go, okay, I'll work it into the conversation.
I always thought it would be a really edgy name for a child, asbestos.
Yeah. Or a rock band. Yeah. They're right.
This is my child, Flower, Daisy, and asbestos.
Yeah. That's the third one I didn't want, wasn't it? Yeah, asbestos. I've been. What's the question? What have I been doing? Oh, what have I been doing? Christ, I've been dealing with some kind of plague in my household, some kind of curse inflicted by a gypsy upon one of my ancestors.
Children.
I call him Leo.
Light of my life.
Yeah, love him dearly. No, Leo's got inner ear. My son Leo's got an inner ear infection.
Oh no.
Which, if you haven't got kids, doesn't sound like a big deal, but it can just sort of like ruin your life.
Yeah.
Because like you can't. And he's been having. Well, this is the big thing I've been dealing with. Is he's been having night terrors, and they're awful. Like he wakes up at randomly at 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. screaming as if something heinous is happening to him, but he doesn't know anything bad. So when I go, mate, what's the matter? And when he eventually sort of comes through, he always goes, I want to play with my train. And I'm going, fucking, that's it. So he doesn't know anything. He's not been traumatized enough to have proper night terrors. He's just dreaming that I'm not letting him play with train and stuff. But to him, that's really, so we're just sort of knackered.
If that's the worst thing that happens to him in his life, that's right up there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we were worried. We were going because the night terrors can be symptomatic of really unsavory traumas. So we were we did some
Let's him
investigating.
play with his train, man.
No, it's my train. That's the problem is it's my train. Yeah. And so yes, we were worried for a minute, and then everything's okay. It's just, but we think it might be connected to fucked sort of tonsils and ear infection and
Adenoids
stuff.
and all
Yeah,
that
that's
business.
it. Yeah, which is just. But I feel like when you first get pregnant, the midwife should say, "Here's some things." What's the cluster feeding? That's like Jesus Christ. What the hell is that thing? They should give you 6 months heads up that's going to happen to you.
Toddlers are not good sick people.
They're awful sick people, and then because me and Misha good now, but it used to put a real strain in a relationship because you just bicker and we have different ideas of how to deal with it and fix it. But now we're he's been so ill for so long, we just we're in a nice rhythm with it. So everything's alright. It's just it's worrying because yesterday he was sort of going help because his ear was hurting, and actually the sad thing is Friday I didn't believe him. All right, so he'd obviously fallen asleep with some milk, and it got behind his ear. And just looked dried behind his ear. So I was thinking, oh, stop going on about you. Is there a bit of milk behind your ear? What do you keep going on about? He's going, my ear hurts. I was going, no, it doesn't. We're having an argument next to his cot at 3 a.m. And then it turned out when we went to the hospital, he had really severe inner ear, pus and infection.
Oh, God.
I was like, oh, my God, Jesus Christ. I was like, I'm so sorry. So, yeah, that's essentially all we've been sort of contending with is life.
But I find that the thing is with kids is that they tell little fibs because they know how they want to get something. But you get to the problem, they get quite smart with it. So my daughter is she's a little bit younger than Leah. I think she's nearly 2.5, and she when she doesn't want to go to bed, they never really want to go to bed, and you put her in bed and she goes, I need a poo. And I know that she doesn't need a poo, but she knows that I'm probably not willing.
You don't
to
want to
run
pay that
risk,
price, yeah,
because she is potty trained.
Now we're all caught up. Our lives are full of stress and worry and poo and ear infections. Now, it's a jolly episode so far for the listener.
Yes.
Hey, this is it. Our demographic, to be fair, is men between the age of 30
Miserable
and 45.
men.
So they know.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
They're right out there like,
Yeah, we feel you, brothers. Yeah. So the next section is what have we learned this week?
What have we learned this week? Learning stuff is cool.
Now, Kevin, what have you learned this week?
nothing.
Thank you, James.
So I thought I'd learned something this week.
Yeah,
and I'm still undecided as to whether or not I have learned something.
Yeah, hit us with what was this? Hit us with the facts.
So what I think I may have learned was that if you take a domesticated pig, a farmed pig,
Sure.
and leave it in the wild, it will become a sort of feral-like boar creature within a couple of generations.
Right.
So
See.
look after your pigs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where did you get the first piece of information from, and then who did try to disprove it?
Yeah, well, we can substantiate, could we? Is that what the issue was?
Yeah, so I can't remember where I heard it. It's one of those things that you kind of...
It does sound familiar.
You can't remember exactly where you heard it, but it was definitely this week.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah. It was yesterday, in fact. Yeah.
And then when we were discussing the podcast earlier today, I remembered that, and I didn't want to look like a tit, so I tried to disprove it, and it seems to be that the jury's a little bit out. One thing I do know is true on that sort of vein is in the Everglades in Florida, they have a lot of people have pet pythons or had pet pythons, and they have been released into the Everglades, and they have no natural predators, and they can feast on pretty much whatever they want. So the whole place is overrun with pythons that are not native to the
If you go there and
to the Everglades.
have you not
Oh my
seen them?
god!
Yeah.
No, jeez, that's terrifying.
There's TikToks of this one guy who just literally goes around in the evening, and if you see one, it goes in a bag and it gets killed.
Oh, that seems unfair.
It's turned into handbags.
But that's the irony is they can't do that with it. They want to. It would be perfect because they're not supposed to be there. They have to kill. I think they've killed off something like 75% of the mammals in the Everglades have gone. All the small lizards and stuff. They have killed everything, all because someone went to the end of the Everglades, where there's kind of like a official dumping zone of animals, because it's about as far as you can drive
Miami.
where the land stops. And, and then they just start throwing. They've overrun everything down there. And the thing is, it's the biggest snake in the world in terms of length. An anaconda is
Beg
wider.
to differ.
Yeah.
Am I right, fellas?
Do you hear the stories of because they have been known to eat people? I think they're native to Indonesia.
Yeah,
that kind of
around
area.
Burma and that sort of.
Yeah.
Thanks, George. That's why I think we should have an audience here. Because sometimes my fucking blistering jokes go right under the radar. Appreciate you, buddy.
I
I think that's yeah.
I was like, did you just say that?
What have we learned this week? Learning stuff is cool.
I've been learning. Now, this is the thing. This is the main reason, other than that you're a natural podcaster, by the way.
Thank you.
We've
First
yeah,
time.
yeah, you're doing great. So we actually want to talk to you about your experience mountain climbing, because I've been obsessed with this. I've been obsessed with Everest recently,
Yeah.
and then you turned me on to. I know you got some questions, haven't you, later on? And you turned me on.
Again, I try.
And you turned me on to your YouTube channel, which is James Doing Things.
That's
is that
right, yeah,
James
yeah.
_doing_ things. And annoyingly, there's 2 videos on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And they're both fucking excellent. The production is really good. The editing's fucking incredible. And I was
And
like,
that's just changing a nappy.
fuck this guy. It's so good. Yeah. And so both your videos are from different adventures that you've been on.
That's right, yeah.
So what was the first one? Was it
So
Russia?
The first one I did was Kilimanjaro.
Oh, Kilimanjaro was the first one.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
fucking hell.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was
good work.
casual.
But that's
Yeah, first one was just Kilimanjaro.
Mount Elbrus in Russia is much harder than Kilimanjaro. It's
Right,
just
right.
Kilimanjaro is much more famous. If you say Kilimanjaro, everyone knows where it is and what it is because Comic Relief have done a lot of
Sure.
Kilimanjaro treks. Yeah, so that was the first one I did. It was a quite
So it's Kilimanjaro and Elbrus in
so-
Russia. So what? So take us back to Kilimanjaro.
yeah.
Let's go right through your adventure here.
Mhm.
So why initially? What was it? What was the impulse
Why?
and drive?
I was bored.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so basically, I was working in Weymouth, and I was doing a very similar job to what I do now, and just going back and to and fro from the office each day. I was a lot of time in the car. I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm kind of bored of this. I need some adventure. So I started looking at what I could do, and I kind of knew Kilimanjaro was one of the a fairly adventurous thing you could do. So I looked into it, and the main, the hard thing is with these is they're expensive to do. I was like, oh, okay, well, I could do this. It's quite expensive though. Anyway, so I kind of didn't take the plunge, as it were, and then I had some bad news. A friend of mine basically lost a friend of mine, and it kind of gave me that realization that life's too short, and you're going to realize that it's not the things, it's sort of really cliche thing to say, it's not the things that you did do that you regret, it's the things you didn't do. So I was like, right, well, let's just get on with it and do it. So, well, cut a long story short, I booked it and then started training for it, and off I went, and then, yeah.
Wow. So take us to wow. By the way, we're so wrapped in your story. That's actually the quietest I've ever heard this garage. That's how into your story. Yeah.
I felt a lot of pressure, to be
No,
honest.
that was yeah, I bet you did. But that was the first time someone hasn't been interrupted in the sort of 4 months we've been doing it here. So wow.
Yeah.
So take us to the first day,
Mm.
Kilimanjaro. How are you feeling? How does it begin?
Nervous, to be
Yeah.
honest. So I've never been to Africa before. I've been to other places. I've been to the Far East, and countries that are a little bit out of the normal sort of tourist route. So I mean, I flew. It was a long journey getting there. I flew via Qatar and then flew to they call it Kilimanjaro Airport, which is an airport kind of in between these two towns, Arusha and Moshi. Arrived there and it was fairly chaotic. One of the things I remember when we first got there is you have to make sure you have all your paperwork before you go. So you make sure you have your visas and everything. Anyway, we arrived at the airport. It's a very small airport. And we get there and it's just, it's as you'd kind of imagine, like I say, chaotic. We get there and the arrivals hall was just a big hall with lots of tables on. They said everybody needs to sign a landing card essentially. And I was like, well, I've got a visa. Surely, no. Everyone needs to sign the landing card. And then you realise that they've just unloaded 300 people from the aircraft. And they haven't provided any pens or pencils for the landing cards.
Oh,
so
shit.
Just kind of scrambling around trying to find pens and pencils to get it done better. That was my initial experience of arriving.
Strong start.
Yeah,
strong start.
of arriving in Tanzania. Obviously, I get out and I had a transfer waiting for me, so I didn't have to use any of the taxis. And then we drove from the airport down to Moshi, which is kind of like the main hub. It is the hub where people, at least climbing from that side to Kilimanjaro, start in Moshi. So there's hotels and everything there. So the drive there was interesting. I think you've probably seen on the video.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
There's different sort of ways of driving. Let's put it that way. It seems to be the person overtaken may have priority, but I wasn't.
Jesus.
Really sure.
Yeah. So it's an anxiety-filled journey before you even get to the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, I probably felt safer on the mountain than I did in the cars, and the same goes for Russia as well. Actually.
Yeah, I bet.
Something else I learned on the first full day that my guide taught me was I think he said he was going to be there at sort of 2 o'clock, and he didn't arrive till about 4:30. And I sort of calling the company saying, "Oh, is he coming?" Because I'm thinking I'd just arrived and I don't know anything about this place. Anyway, he arrived and he said to me, "There's no need to call the office. I know that in the UK you use Greenwich Mean Time, but here in Tanzania we use GMT. In Tanzania we use something called TFT, which is Tanzanian Flexible Time."
Oh, that's handy.
I'll be there when I fucking be there.
I see. Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, okay. I kind of get how it works." So that they just kind of go through your kit, make sure that everything is fine. Make sure you got everything you need, or if you need to hire anything or buy anything, they'll sort you out then. And then so did the usual, ate at the hotel, had a little explore around. It's an interesting place, very different. And then the next day is where you go and meet the rest of the group that you're climbing with and the rest of the guides. So yeah, it's just a case of getting my head down and getting some rest.
Yeah. So take us to wow, that's really cool.
I do have one question.
Sure.
Obviously, when you decided you were going to go, and you were like, "Yes, I'm fucking doing this," I know you've just mentioned it. Then he checks your kit.
Yeah.
Did you have did someone tell you what you needed to take? Where? Because obviously you can't just go rocking up in a North Face jacket and a.
Yeah, they give you a kit list.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it?
Yeah, it's how much you want to. I mean, the thing with Kilimanjaro is it's very accessible. Like, you don't have to be some super athlete. You don't have to have all the Gucci kit. It is very accessible for just regular people like ourselves. I can't remember what the most expensive thing I had was, but nothing was break
crazy.
Actually, I can tell you it's a sleeping bag. The sleeping bag is the most expensive thing, but the sleeping bag that I have is far surplus to requirements for Kilimanjaro, to be perfectly honest.
Take us to the climb.
Yeah.
So now looking back, was it more difficult than you thought or easier than you thought? What was the actual? So how long did it take firstly to get up?
I mean, that honestly is the kind of crux of the anxiety, is that I had absolutely no idea how easy or how hard it was going to be, and you just don't know that because you don't have any point of reference. And there is an element of altitude which you just don't know. You don't know how your body's going to handle it.
So it's still high enough that you can get out.
Oh yeah. It's 6,000 meters. Best part of 6,000 meters, so 19,000 feet. So the climb, I climbed up what's called the Machami route, and from start to finish, up and down, was 7 days. So you can do it quicker than that, 6 days. But again, there is an element of acclimatization, and I had the time, so I didn't want to push it into 6 days because it makes basically the last day is you go up and you go all the way down, which is a really long way. And actually going down is after you've been walking for 5 days, it's pretty hard on the old knees when you start getting. So yeah, I did a 7-day route, the Machami route. So you basically arrive at the bottom of the mountain, and it is a tourist place. Where I was in Russia is a completely different kettle of fish altogether. We'll get to that. So it's quite bustly. There's lots of people. The buses are coming in with the guides, and there's a little bit of infrastructure at the bottom. There's like huts, and you have lunch and stuff. And there's a lot of people. Just before you get there, there's kind of like a gate that they're not allowed to cross, but there everybody's like trying to sell things, and it's all very busy and exciting and everything. And I remember there's monkeys like in the trees above you, because at the bottom of the mountain it's not a rainforest. I wouldn't call it a rainforest, perhaps it is, but it's quite dense tropical forest. So that first day of climbing it's really leisurely, to be perfectly honest. You're not at any great altitude, and it's a path going up, like I say, through the forest, and you can get some nice pictures because you're kind of low down and you can see the snow-capped peak kind of through some of the trees, and there's lots of interesting wildlife, and actually because it's everybody who goes up on that route walks up the same path, so it's really social. You're not just speaking to people in your group. There's people from all over, and to be honest, there's people from all over the world, and we are kind of blessed that if you speak English, pretty much almost everybody there will speak some level of English, if they're climbing Kili, and the Tanzanians speak English too. So I wish I could remember the name of the camps. I can't remember all of the names of the camps, but to be honest, the first camp was it was nothing wild. It was, a bit of a clearing in the forest. I mean, the mountain itself, Kilimanjaro, is just absolutely unfathomably big. So you're not, it's not like you're constantly like this, like a cartoon. It's just massive. It's difficult to know you're on a mountain until you kind of look around.
A constant, like, struggling incline.
You don't really see the base on those pictures. I don't think you're really seeing the base from where you start, at least from where you start. It's it kind of is shallow, and it kind of gets steeper as you go a bit higher.
I do remember that section from the Comic Relief and Chris Moyles and all those.
Yeah,
that you just seem to just be walking.
Yeah,
for ages,
yeah.
Like, and then you turn around and you suddenly reference the point. You're like,
so it's
like I've actually, we're quite a long way here.
So you also don't go straight up. You kind of spiral around. So yeah, that was day one. I actually I climbed with some interesting people. One of the girls was from China. One of the chaps was German. He's probably the chap that I got on with best, and then a Indian chap and 2 French Canadian guys. One of them actually had a very interesting story because he had a prosthetic leg from the knee down. And I didn't want to say anything. It's just, I've never met this bloke before, but it became a bit of a topic of conversation later, and he had quite an inspiring story that he didn't want his his different abilities or to hinder him, so he was climbing Kilimanjaro for that, which I thought was fairly admirable. And
yeah, that's great. Yeah. So how are you feeling? So you said it's a 7-day trek. So take us to, say, the day before you're about to summit. So you're scaling, and so is it now getting like incrementally tougher, or how are you coping with it? Okay?
So say the first first 3 days are it's fairly relaxed. There is a part of the trip in those first 3 days where you go to what's called the lava tower, which is quite high. I can't put a number on it. It's on my video somewhere. But that's when some people were starting to get altitude sickness. Right. So we go up to the lava tower and we stop there for lunch, have a break, and then go back down to the other camps. And yeah, that's when people were starting to some people were getting ill, but it's fine. But as we sort of move on, it really kind of starts to get a little bit trickier and harder at a camp called Barranco Camp, which is below what's called the Barranco Wall, which, to look at it face on, it looks like a cliff. it's not actually a cliff. It's just a very steep, rocky face, which, to put it in kind of perspective, it's not too dissimilar to, you know, when you go down to Durdle Door and the bottom part is really steep and you're kind of clambering. It's like that, but for quite a lot longer. Like I want to say it's 400 meters, but I might be talking out my ass there. But what's interesting is, and this is kind of a known feature of Kilimanjaro, is as you go at higher altitudes, I believe it's the only place on the planet that has 5 different kind of climatic zones, because you start off in rainforest, then it kind of goes to like a grassland, then it becomes like I guess a shrubland, and then it becomes desert, and then ice cap.
Oh shit!
Sort of thing.
Yeah, wow.
But sorry, you were asking me what it's like as you get a bit closer.
So when did you start feeling? Oh shit! It's getting a little bit more.
So I started feeling shit. We were in a camp called the Karanga camp, which is, you have the Karanga camp and then you have the kind of the summit camp. So this is this is the third night from the end, and this is the second night before the summit. So this camp was on an incline and it was rocky, and you're kind of feeling tired, but you're also you're at altitude, so your heart beats faster anyway.
Go ahead,
and yeah, I mean, I didn't thankfully have a headache, but you kind of start to feel it. And I had absolutely zero sleep that night. And it sucked, because you're also nervous, because you also know that the next camp you're going to, you're not actually really going to sleep there because you leave in the middle of the night. And you're thinking, well, this is actually my last night's sleep before I go to the summit. So my last night's sleep was a good 2 days before we went, because I didn't sleep in this Karanga camp. So yeah, that's kind of when it got a little bit real, I suppose. From that camp, you go to I believe Barafu camp, I think it's called. Don't quote me on that, but that is the last camp before you go to the summit, or you call it the summit camp if you want. That's kind of split into 2 levels. You've got the bottom level, and then you've got a level a bit higher up. So I think basically, depending on how much money you've paid, is where you start the summit from. So they'll take you up to the higher camp if you paid a bit more money, because it makes the summit day easier. The summit day is always the hardest. Just so much more is expected of you than just kind of leisurely walking along. So yeah, we got there. I guess we kind of had lunch there. It's a bit of a short day, and then they basically get your head down, because we're going to be leaving at midnight sort of time to go up to the summit.
Is that so that you can get to the summit and then spend the rest of the day coming back down the mountain? Is that why
and also I mean, I think the idea is they want you to get to what it is. They want you to get to the top, if not before, as the sun is rising. So you see sunrise.
Wow, I see. Yeah, lovely.
So I actually saw the sunrise on New Year's Day, which was
cool.
Yeah.
I suppose that gives you then the whole day for the descent.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, wow.
So the trip up from the summit camp, I remember it just being long, really long.
Yeah.
I feel like I probably in the video that I made, I feel like I probably gave it a little bit too much of dramatic effect. The problem is, it sounds like so dramatic that now when I do harder ones, it's like, well, the thing is, I've said that.
yeah. I see. Change the bar.
Yeah. So I mean, it takes. I couldn't put a number on it. Maybe 6 or 7 hours to get up to the top, and it just seems endless.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we climbed on quite a popular day, and it's quite amazing because as you go up, all you can see is head torches. There's lines of head torches going up, but you can also see Moshi, the town that we climbed from, at the bottom. Yeah. But it's not like looking. It's difficult to get a sense of scale. It's not like looking down, like, you know, say Snowdon or something, or one of the mountains in the UK. It's almost like you're looking down from an aircraft, and we could see all the fireworks going off from the town because it's New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So it's quite an amazing
So you're above
experience.
the fireworks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, well 5,000 meters above the fireworks.
Oh, Jesus!
But you're looking down on them.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. But yeah, as I say, the actual summit day it's tough. Yeah, you have to have you don't have to be tremendously fit, but I think you have to have a little bit
Grit in you.
yeah,
Motivation,
just
bit
a
of
little,
drive.
a little bit of grit, and you've got to want to get to the top. I do imagine as we kind of get to the top, you kind of get this sense. This is a really strange sensation. You get this sense of something really enormously big next to you, and you're like, because you can't really see because it's dark, and then you realize that's the glaciers.
Oh,
That you can see. I mean, as we went up, the main ones are kind of on the left hand side. But there's just these huge chunks of ice, and you can kind of feel the cold air coming off them. And then obviously, as you go through and you get to the top, you can see them fully. Yeah. And then you can see into the crater. But the crater's just full of.
have you got pictures of all this?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you send the pictures over, and then when I do the video, I'll.
So
add
after you've
them over
done
the
your
video.
7 hours and a bit of intestinal fortitude, etc., etc.,
yeah.
what's your reward aside from the sunrise, etc.?
Yeah.
How long are you up there for before they're like, right, let's go?
So they don't really put like a huge time limit on it. We were quite a quick group, to be honest. We got up there relatively quickly. You do what everyone does, which is you take your picture next to the sign. and believe me, it looked like fights were going to break out. To be honest, some of the nationalities are a bit more pushy than the others and irritating. And obviously, being a Brit, you're a bit like, oh, excuse me, chap.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry,
Germany, would you?
yeah, I see. Yeah, but so obviously, how many would you say that were up there with you at this point?
Hundreds.
Oh,
wow,
really?
Yeah.
Well, no, I wouldn't say 100, maybe 100.
So is it a
Yeah.
large?
It's huge. So because it's a rim, like it's not like a summit,
Yes.
like you would imagine
Everest
like a
nuts.
peak or something like that. It's a rim. There's actually there is actually technically 3 summits to Kilimanjaro, but we were on the I want to say Kimbo, but it's not Kimbo because that's Kimbo Slice.
He was up there, was he? So you climbed a mountain with a Kimbo Slice.
Yeah.
Kibo Summit, yeah. So that's the sort of main one that we're on. But yeah, I'd say there's about 100 or so people up there. But as you go back down, because when you get to you kind of come up, and then once you get onto the rim, that's not the highest point. So you walk along the rim for 5 or 10 minutes, and that's where you kind of realize how many people are coming up. Particularly when you turn around and there's still people
Coming the other way.
up. Yeah.
Wow, what a fucking brilliant adventure.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I would thoroughly recommend it. And my guide, who I climbed with, is a very, very nice chap. This isn't a plug that I've been.
He's been in touch.
But he's since set up his own company, and I would be more than happy to recommend him to anybody who was interested in going. And to be honest,
I'm sure Steve can put a link on at the end of all this. Can't you?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'd like something
Sounds
I'd love
fun
to
as
do
well.
myself one day. It's just I
Yeah.
couldn't afford to do it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's something I'd love to do. That sense of adventure in me is, especially as I'm getting older and more
And
senile.
my
that's
sense of
something that-
adventure went to bed when I was 30 and never came back out of it.
So well, hey, that's really cool. I really thank you for sharing that experience. So take us now. So you did Kilimanjaro first, and then you thought, let's really fucking amp
I
it
like
up.
Mm.
this.
Yeah.
And let's go to Elbrus in
Crank it to
Russia.
11.
Yeah. So tell us about Elbrus. Why is Elbrus different to Kilimanjaro?
'cause
Why was it harder?
So this is something that I didn't really appreciate. So Elbrus is lower than Mount Kilimanjaro, but not by much. Off the top of my head, I think I know Mount Elbrus is 5,642 meters, and Kili is about 5,900.
Oh, it's not much in it at all, really.
589 or something like that. I didn't know this, but apparently the atmosphere is slightly thicker around the equator, so I think the difference in where they are in latitude makes up for the difference in altitude.
Right.
So why did I want to do Elbrus is the question, I suppose. Or
Yeah,
was
so
it?
yeah,
I've
well-
never even heard of it. Have you?
So
beforehand?
I hadn't heard
this is a
before you-
misconception. Everybody
Yeah.
thinks that the highest mountain in Europe is Mont Blanc in France, but it's not. It's Mount Elbrus in Russia. It's just that Mont Blanc's in Western Europe, and people tend not to consider Russia part of Europe, but it is.
They choose life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of got the bug after Kili. One of my motivations for Kilimanjaro was I did raise some money for charity whilst doing it. I felt it as a challenge, and that was something that I wanted to do was as motivation, and also to try and get something out other than my own personal satisfaction, get something else out of it. But I kind of did get a little bit of a bug. And on the Kilimanjaro, I met people that were interested in doing 7 summits. When you go to Kilimanjaro, it's always the first of the 7 summits that people do, and people will talk about it. The percentage of people that go on to do other mountains, I imagine, is very low. So I was thinking, this is the start of a lifelong dream that I'm going to do. And I've not completely given up on it. It's just going to take a lot longer than I think it is.
Well, it's an extremely expensive hobby.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the natural one to do after that is Mount Elbrus. So 2 ways of doing Mount Elbrus. One way, which is the way that most people do it, is the southern route. And this is a route that I had absolutely no interest in doing, because on the other side of Mount Elbrus, it's actually a ski resort. It doesn't go very high up the mountain, but there is a ski resort, and that's a very popular way of climbing it. People will basically go on a chairlift up a portion of the mountain,
now you're talking.
and then they'll go on a
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, let's get up there.
And then they'll go on a snowcat up even higher, up onto the glacier, and then
Elbrus it is, Steve.
Elbrus,
yeah.
yeah.
and then they go up to the. I mean, I wish I had the pictures. Available to kind of point things out. But then they kind of go up to the saddle and they climb from there. Again, Elbrus has two summits, and the middle bit is called the saddle, which is where if you come from the northern side and you come from the southern side, that's where they all kind of meet. So I wanted to go on the northern route because I'm an idiot.
So that's the tougher one. And that's
So basically that is. It's tough. It's tough for normal people. It's still, adventure tourism as opposed to doing anything
mountaineering,
absolutely wild. But I mean, people do die on Elbrus, much more common than Kilimanjaro. So maybe the year or two after I left, there was a storm. Weather's really changeable on it, and it is absolutely bitterly cold. And if you get caught in bad weather, it can be really, really dangerous.
So just one scenario this time, not forest, desert, but just snow, more fucking snow.
So basically 2, grass and snow. Actually, with a little bit of horrendous loose rock in between that, which I'll explain.
That's the worst kind of rock to have when scaling a mountain.
If we go through the kind of story how we got there, you would have seen it in the video where I'm just like, it's horrible.
I will, and I will put links to the videos in there because they are, frustratingly good videos. You're very talented.
I appreciate the input. The only thing that is a little bit annoying is I didn't I used copyrighted music, so it's
they'll whip that off there, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I'd like to think it might have more views.
I'm something of a musician myself. I don't know if you've heard the Steve Kaler Show jingles, but I can whip something up for you.
Actually, could you do some background music for me, and then I might get some more views.
I wouldn't let him do it too much because about halfway through, suddenly there'll be a picture of Steve appear in the background of Kilimanjaro.
It's me.
Like he's climbed it himself.
I'm king of the mountain. Well.
But so the northern route. To put it in perspective, on that particular route, that week where we were climbing, there may have been 50 people.
Right.
Total.
Right. How were your preparations different for it? Was it the same gear or same?
No, so you need much more gear, and this is why it's much harder. So sorry to answer your question, Kev. What makes it harder? Kilimanjaro, you have porters that carry your stuff.
This is all
Mount Elbrus, northern route, you carry your own shit.
Oh, I see.
And you've got a lot more stuff to carry, basically. So, God, it's been so long, I've forgotten the gradings for the boots, but you need basically quite expensive, good mountaineering boots that are crampon compatible. So you need proper mountaineering boots, crampons, harnesses, ropes, ice axe, and really warm kit. Really, really warm kit. It's not something I really appreciated until we got there when, some of the guys had good kit and he was looking at it and you'll be cold in that. And actually, it's not a case of on a normal day, you're going to be cold. It's if the shit hits the fan and it happens to, a storm comes in or the wind comes in, they really need to ensure that you have got the right kit to
survive,
keep yourself safe if the weather changes, which it does happen very, very quickly. So yeah, I mean,
I'm assuming a slight cost difference there as well. Because
yeah. I mean, luckily I already had quite a lot of the gear.
Oh, so some of the kit was transferable to.
Yeah, like I said, my sleeping bag that I had for Killy was completely surplus to requirements, but it's perfect for Elbrus when you're sleeping in it's like minus 25. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like a little bit, I guess, a little bit of background of how the two are different, which is much harder. When we got there, our guide asked us, how much experience we'd had, and so I met a lot of the guys that I was climbing with on Kilimanjaro. So one of the German guys I met on Kili, and an Australian chap I met on Kili as well, and they brought two of the friends that they knew. So there was a kind of connection already with a few of them, which was perfect, really, because the worst thing is we get in a group and no one speaks English.
That'd be strange.
Because you go there for a week.
You're tired and exhausted,
exactly,
cold, you start to get a bit snippy, and
you do need that. You do need that
support,
kind of camaraderie to kind of get you through, because it can be tough. I've completely forgotten my train of thought.
So we've got the kit.
Yeah.
We've got the incentive. So take us to so obviously, and you'll see on the video, listeners, you'll see on the video when you get to when you watch a YouTube video, getting there itself is not ordeal. Because trying to get across Russia with this crazy driver, and the roads are
they're gnarly.
Yeah, so but you managed to survive, getting to the mountain.
Yeah.
So take us to it's the first day.
Yeah.
You've got everything, you're prepared,
Mm-hmm.
you're about to set off. How are you feeling then? Are you feeling confident because of Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, quietly confident, I think. I mean, I had a pretty rough night's sleep the night before. You kind of get there and you have a walk around, basically, and then you stay there that night. And so the first proper day is a tough day. You're going from the main base camp, northern base camp, up to the high camp. This is another thing that's different with Kili's. There's less camps, so the altitude changes each day are much bigger. That's what you call the first carry. So you have the first carry of stuff up to the high camp.
Oh, because did you had to do one trip where you just carried the stuff
That's
up,
right,
and then come back down for the rest of it.
Yeah.
oh god damn,
Yeah, and then they go up again.
that would feel very defeated.
So actually,
oh god, I've done this already.
Climbed Elbrus twice in one go. That's especially impressive.
So it's a tough day. I think in the video it was absolutely blazing hot sunshine, because it's the middle of Russia. It's a real continental climate. It's just really hot summers and very, very cold winters. But that particular day was so hot, and I was blowing out my ass the whole time. It seemed to be completely endless. But I mean, I can't. The altitude change on that day is maybe 1,000 meters. It's quite a lot. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the heights of the relative camps, but maybe the base camp is 2,000 meters and the high camp's 3,000 meters. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. And it's exhausting. I kind of deliberately packed my bag too heavy on that day, because I thought, full of beans today. It's the most full of beans I'm going to be is right now. This is day one, so I was like, I'll carry most of my stuff up. And turned out that was a mistake. No. It was So it was tough. It was very, very long, and it just seemed to go on forever. And I, in a certain part of it, because you kind of like go up a valley, and then there's a low, a flat piece of grassland that seems to go on for quite a long time. So something quite interesting that I saw that I wish I got on video was a helicopter evacuation, and I swear to God, this guy must have been like an ex-Soviet pilot or something, because he came absolutely hurtling down the mountain, and then disappeared, and then came over the crest of this next kind of hill bit, and he literally hugged the ground all the way down the hill until he got to the flat bit, and you can see just obviously,
hey, look at me,
like,
fool!
Yeah, just like blast it past us, like crazy Ivan. But the last kind of bit before you get to the high camp, again, it's a volcano. It's an extinct volcano. So there's like, basically, I'd just call it like crushed up rock, kind of like, I guess the beaches in the Canaries. You know, they have those ash beaches.
Yeah.
So there's quite a long bit up to the high camp that is like that. And I would compare it to, this is the only way I can compare it to, like locally, is you know where you're, say, on Burton Bradstock, and it's quite steep, and it's gravel. And when you, like, kind of, when you walk up it, you sink back down unless you move quick enough. Well, it's like that for like 2 hours. And at that point, you're at nearly 3,000 meters altitude, and you've got 15, 20 kilos on your back. So, again, for a normal person, it's very, very, it's quite physically demanding. Then you get up to high camp, which is at the base of the glacier. And again, that's quite an interesting place. They've built, they look like UFOs and spaceships and stuff. These like just strange metal structures for people to sleep in, and what you would kind of like call a Nissen hut here, which are those kind of huts that kind of look like big pig pens.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, that's where you sleep and that's where you eat when you go up to high camp. So day one, you go up there, you drop your stuff off, you have some scran, which is buckwheat, which seems to be the scran of choice for the Russians, which is not particularly appetizing.
Yummy.
Yeah, and after about 4 days of eating buckwheat, I was like, I'll just eat my Cliff Bars, thanks.
Yeah. Your bag's not full of kit, it's full of sandwiches and bacon.
Baked beans.
So yeah, then it's hard to do, but you'll go all the way back down, and then you sleep.
Oh, that's
so you basically take almost everything up apart from your sleeping bag.
Yeah.
You leave your sleeping bag down.
That is a proper kidney punch, isn't it?
Yeah, you go down with an empty bag.
And soul.
Yeah.
Knowing that the next day you'll do it again. But I suppose the next day you
imagine getting down there and be like, I haven't got it in me to get back up there, but all my gear's up there now.
Shit. Yeah.
You can pay someone to bring it down. What's actually quite interesting about a high camp is it's tiny. The amount of people up there at any one time, it can't be any more than like 30 or 40 when we were there. I'm sure more people do go up there because some people pitch tents around the bottom of the glacier there. But really remote, really inaccessible. But it's Russia, so they've got a shelf full of alcohol.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Excellent.
So apparently they bring that stuff.
You'd find that at the bottom of the ocean. If it was like a Russian ocean, you'd find a nice bar full of vodka.
Red-eyed man with some vodka. Like, hey, comrade.
You'd find it on the moon if you look hard enough up there.
So that's day one. You go back down and I've just kicked back with some buckwheat.
Excellent, lovely. Yeah. And so then the next day you do that exact same climb again.
Yeah.
And then rest for the evening when you get to that camp again. So the next day, is it the same thing? Do you then have to get your gear up again and then come back down?
No, not quite. Oh. So you go. This is when you go up onto the glacier, and this is it's harder because you've got gear. You're all hooked up on a rope, and we go up to a place called Lens Rocks, which is kind of like halfway up the glacier, basically. When you get up the top, when you first get up there, you get a kind of a sense of scale, and it's like I said, it's quite hard to conceptualize when you're sat. Actually, talking about being nervous, that is when I went, what the fuck am I doing here?
It's really high.
Because it's just enormous, massive ice. Obviously, there's rock underneath it as well. It's the mountain, but it's absolutely enormous. And you had people that are going up to Lens Rocks where we were going, and they are the tiniest little specks. You can just make out that you can work out that they're moving, but it's huge. Anyway, so yeah, after the second day, like you say, you have a rest, and then you go on a acclimatization hike. This is up on the glacier, and it's kind of get you used to walking on the glacier. So you go up to Lens Rocks, which again is quite high. Yeah, I can't put a number on it, but well north of 4,000 meters, I would say. Yeah, maybe 4,500 meters. So you go up there and you have a look around and you go, okay, well, this is good. I haven't got altitude sickness. Back down we go.
Shit.
Yeah. So it's to get you used to walking on the glacier, and it's steep. It's really steep.
How do you walk on the glacier?
Slowly.
Yeah, but sure.
You just you have to kind of. I mean, you end up kind of with your feet, like this a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty tough actually going up to Lens Rocks. We actually managed to do it quite quickly, but there's things that you just don't think about. Like if you sit down for a break, don't sit on your bum because you'll be going down the glacier.
Oh my god!
But you're on a rope, so you're okay. But once you
imagine how fucking dejected you'd be as just sliding down the glacier, you just climbed up, going, fuck.
But once you kind of like unrope at the top, they did get a couple of people did get shouted at. Don't forget where you are. You need to be careful. Although we did see a Russian guy climbing on his own, teaching himself self-arrest.
That was that helicopter pilot from earlier.
Glacier.
Yeah. He jumped out the helicopter and climbed up the glacier.
So you go up, then you go back down, and then you eat some buckwheat.
Excellent. Nice. Yeah.
Fine place to visit Russia.
Yeah. But this is where it's totally different. It's totally different to Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is very much like they really want you to enjoy yourself. It's here. It's you've got your one mission is to get up to the top of the mountain. I can't remember if I already said this about the guide when I said that we'd climbed Kilimanjaro. I think I interrupted myself on that. He kind of chuckled. I was like, "This isn't Kilimanjaro."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, that turned out to be true. So then we went. Then you go down, like I said, to enjoy some more buckwheat, and basically get all your kit ready. What the normal routine of doing things that the companies will offer is after you go up to Lens Rocks for that day, you come back down and you rest. You have a whole day's rest before you go up again. We didn't want to do that, primarily because that makes the summit day from the northern high camp on Elbrus to the summit and back an absolutely a really very, very difficult day. There was some people in the group before us who'd climbed like much more significant mountains, didn't get to the top. And I think primarily because that summit day is huge. If you just go from the high camp, I think it's close to 2,000 meters up in one day and 2,000 meters down, which is very, very tough. So we kind of agreed with the tour operator before, if, weather permitting, instead of having the rest day, we'll have a short rest that day, and we will set up an intermediate camp at Lens Rocks, which means that we can stay the night there, and that cuts our summit day significantly, by 4 or 5 hours, or 6 hours, which definitely turned out to be the right choice. I don't think I would have made it to the top if we didn't do that. But again, that was weather permitting. When we spoke to people before, they said, yeah, well, we have set up camps before then up there, and the winds just wrecked them.
How far from at Lens Rocks? How far are you then, days wise, from the summit? Is that you like halfway?
So that's 1 day. So from Lens Rocks, it was 1 day to the summit. I actually checked the times on the metadata on my phone because I couldn't remember how long it took. I knew it took. What's the policy on language on this podcast?
Go for it.
Oh, go blue, baby, go blue.
Fucking ages.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it longer?
It seemed to go on for fucking ever. Honestly, it was absolutely relentless. But yeah, like I say, the main thing is weather. I think again on the video, one of the things you can see, I heard it when we were camping at Lens Rocks, is you can hear the wind. It wasn't windy where we were, but you can hear the wind above you. And it sounded like a freight train, just like, just intimidating, to be honest. Really, really quite intimidating. So we spent the night at Lens Rocks. We had, again, we were talking about guides and porters and stuff earlier. For the summit on Elbrus, we had loads of guides. We had 2 Sherpas who, I think I said to you, in the video, they've climbed Everest, they've climbed a few 8,000-meter mountains, very, very experienced mountaineers, so good people to have with you. And then we had the Russian guides as well.
I keep picturing that Russian helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
He figures heavily in my story now.
He's just there in a fucking bobble hat and a pair of pants.
You get to the summit and he's there in shorts going, that fucking took you so long.
Fucking Western pigs.
Fagging hand.
Cocktail. Yeah.
Hammer and sickle on the middle of his crotch.
But yeah, we had. I mean, they facilitated us camping up there. There's no way we were carrying tents. The fitness level. I mean, speak for myself. There was a couple of guys that climbed were very, very fit. But the Sherpas and the guides carried the tents up for the camp. And again, actually, they smoke all the time. The Sherpas, and they're just incredibly fit
people and next level human beings.
So yeah, they facilitated that. So we spent the night up there. We had a big tent that we were all in. I do remember very distinctly. It was cold. It was very cold overnight. Minus 20, minus 25. There was thankfully my sleeping bag's down to minus 40.
Yeah.
So that's pretty warm in there. But it was cold the moment you got out the sleeping bag. And one thing I do remember, which is I guess it was probably altitude. I remember just as I was dozing off to sleep. Bearing in mind that we were all in this tent, 6 of us in there, and just suddenly had this really bizarre feeling that I was not being supported by anything. Like I was just falling. And I've never had it before, and it must have been down to altitude. And I just, and everyone in the tent was like, "What's wrong with him?"
That's the last thing you want to hear up there.
I was thinking, I literally just felt like I was falling. It was really...
English is losing it.
That must be terrifying for everybody else.
Yeah.
Waking up to scream in the middle of the night.
Particularly for me, I found it quite unnerving.
No,
I thought the tent was sliding down the fucking hill.
Yeah, it must have been horrifying. Of all the things you want to feel that high up a mountain, falling isn't one of them, is it? That's the last really low down on the list, isn't it? Jesus, that must have been really scary. Let's go to the ascension to the summit.
Yeah.
So you wake, you have that horrible experience where you feel like you're falling.
Yeah.
And then semi-restless night's sleep.
A night's sleep is giving it too much credit. We woke up at 2.
Oh Christ! And is that again a similar thing?
Same
So that
aim.
they get you there for the sunrise.
So I don't. It's not really for sunrise on this. This is a more an altogether different experience. It's more you need to get up and down
Beat the
before it gets
weather.
dark.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right.
Particularly if you're coming from the high camp, like you say, it's a huge day. We left very early in the morning, and the sun came up en route, so it was well daylight when we got there. Right. The annoying thing is on that. So you can kind of split it into 2 bits. You have the bit from Lens Rocks to the saddle. The saddle, I said, is where the 2 peaks kind of meet. It's kind of shaped like a bum.
Nice.
So we were meeting in the crack.
Sure. Yeah.
And that bit up to the crack is really, really, really long. I just remember it taking ages, and you.
Is that the part of the video where you say you were struggling with that, like
so
effort-wise?
it's-
It's
Everyone
hard on the
struggles with a
legs,
long
isn't it?
crack.
It's the part in the video where there is no video because I was like, I'm not taking my fucking camera out. That's
Right.
far too much effort to expend.
Sure,
I need to
yeah.
focus every ounce of my effort in moving
Wow.
forward. And yeah, I mean, I can't remember exactly how long it took to get to the saddle, but it's tough because it's not just the glacier, it's the snow, it's you're exhausted anyway. It's the altitude. I remember it. We'd been walking for 4 hours or something, coming up, and you think, oh fuck, we gotta be here soon. And then it just kind of like opened up onto a less steep but long snowfield of snow that was not deep enough to make it impossible to walk in, but it was deep enough to make it a
Sap
real
enough energy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. We got to the saddle. We actually only had 1 person drop out at the saddle.
Mm-hmm.
They very nearly had 2 because
really?
I was very, very close
really?
to just
What were you
packing
feeling?
it in.
Just exhaustion and
Just fucks, yeah.
Is this sort of single file?
No, so actually, when you go out from the saddle, yeah. So when you get to the saddle or the crack, whichever.
it's the crack now in my mind.
Yeah. That is when. So when you come from the north, all of the infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, fixed ropes basically, because it's steep going up to the summit. That is where the people coming from the south, which has a lot of people coming from because they've used chairlifts.
Oh, they're the
and
fuckers
snowcats,
flying up.
Yeah. And they meet the people.
Why you look so tired?
And they meet the miserable twats that came from the north who are fucking half dead. And yeah, so we only had like I said, we only had one person turn around. Then the group behind us, I don't think anyone made it to the top. I think the whole lot turned around, or enough of them turned around that they couldn't support the other people going forward with the guide. So, but they didn't. They weren't. They went from high camp all the way to the top. They didn't set up an intermediate camp that we did. So anybody who's thinking about doing it, weather permitting, pay the extra 200 quid or whatever it is to get a camp set up halfway up, or go from the south.
South seems the way to go.
Yeah.
Seems much easier.
Yeah. Is there a helicopter we can do the rest with?
So the last bit, I mean, the only reason I didn't turn around, I was like, how much longer is it? And he was like, an hour, or something like that. It wasn't long, and I was like,
manageable amount of
I've
time
got.
in your head.
It was still the morning, and I thought to myself, I've actually got quite a lot of time here, so I can just take it slow, which I did. So what they do is they put the people who are fucked at the front, so they don't get left behind, and everyone has to go at their pace. So I was
hated.
no, I would say I was the person in the second worst condition at this point. There was a Russian chap in our group who was really not very well at all. We got to the top at 20 to 10, and we left at 2. So yeah, it was about 7.5, 8 hours.
Oh, mate.
So when you get when you get to the crack, it gets steeper, and it is single file. But it's on a path that is trodden quite well into the ice, so it's they're kind of like steps, but it is steep. So you have to. There's a line that goes up, and you clip onto the line. But it was really, really tough, and I was so pissed off actually because we were getting close to the top, and it's a bit like Kilimanjaro. You get very close to the top, the lines stop, it kind of plateaus out, and then it's kind of a bit of a free for all, and people go up. Well, it took me longer than the rest of the group, me and the Russian guy who was way behind me, longer to get up there. And I could see them getting to the top, and I could see the cameras coming out. And I was like, I'm not missing it further.
Vanity fuel.
Dragging my ass up there. So actually, in the photo of the whole group, I'm like leaning on my poles like this, 'cause they've all recovered, but I've just a second arrived.
And there's a Russian guy on the floor in the background. Like, wait for me.
Yeah. That was it. You get to the top and you take a photo.
So was that equally as a profound experience for you at the top, or were you busy
And there's
fucking
just
trying to
more
breathe?
of
Yeah, what is the peak like? Is it a peak or is it a...
Oh, it's more like a
Oh, it's an
mound.
arse.
A mound.
Oh, mound. Yeah.
But I mean, Kelly's really big ring, like miles wide. This is just a kind of a mound.
Right.
Again, we put some pictures up to accompany it.
Yep. All this will be, and what we'll do is we'll make individual YouTube videos about the part of the stories and TikToks and stuff, and put it.
Was there sort of like maybe 20 people up there at most?
So because we meet people from the south, there's a number of people up there, but it's not like Kilimanjaro. It's not. I wouldn't be able to.
Well, they're
put a
still
number
drunk
on it.
from the south, I would have.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to put a number
cheeseburgers.
on it. Maybe, but at the top at any one time, maybe there's 50 or so.
I have a question then. You said obviously when you got to the top of Kilimanjaro that you were very euphoric, and was that the same this time, or were you just like, get me down?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, both times you're kind of like, it's quite emotional. You're kind of like close to tears. Luckily on Elbrus, you're wearing proper goggles, so no one can see anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Just fill it.
But it's quite an emotional experience. I feel like Kilimanjaro, I was more emotionally attached to the climb. For part of my motivation for doing it in the first place, but Elbrus was just so tough that when I got to the top, it was just like I say, a euphoric experience. It's a very difficult emotion to describe. It's kind of a mixture of exhaustion, elation, pride,
dying,
fear. The way down was a little bit eventful, I'd say. So when I said that I wasn't in a very good shape, and neither was the Russian chap. Well, the Russian chap was in a very bad state indeed. He was just completely exhausted. So he basically got taken down by the guide and the Sherpa. They tied him up and hooked him up to their harnesses and dragged him down the glacier.
Whoa!
Until they got to where we camped, and then they gave him, I guess it was a dexamethasone shot, which is what they give people who are experience altitude sickness.
I see.
And But he said, we can see the high camp from there. So it's just like, the rest of you guys go down. We'll deal with the sick Russian, whose name I forget. Yeah, so we got down. By the time I got down to the bottom, to the high camp, I wasn't very well either. And I was experiencing altitude sickness, and I found it very, very difficult to move any distance.
What were the symptoms of that? Like,
so
details? Is it muscle aches and exhaustion?
No, it's just you can't. It's very, very difficult to describe. We got down to the high camp, and you just can't move at any speed whatsoever.
Right.
It's like every few paces you have to stop and catch your breath.
Right.
And it's very difficult to describe. I've never felt it before.
So I
think it's a combination of things. So when we kind of sat down for about an hour or so, and I said, look, guys, I'm going to go for a rest. So I shuffled over to where my sleeping bag was, which is in another cabin over. And just so happened that there was a doctor, an Irish chap. Anyway, he checked my chest and everything. And he gave me, again, dexamethasone and nifedipine, which is what they give people who are basically having problems with altitude. He diagnosed or thought that I was having the early stages of HAPE, which is a high altitude pulmonary edema, which you get fluid in your lungs. I'm not sure that I agree with that diagnosis. I actually think what happened, and this is just my own opinion, is that you're breathing in, and I don't know if this is common to other people, you're breathing in very, very dry, very, very cold air, absolutely relentlessly for like 12 hours straight. And I get like irritated airwaves in that circumstance and get tight-chested. And I think that's what I was experiencing. Plus the fact that the oxygen, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's a third less. That might be complete bollocks, but a significantly reduced level of oxygen in the air. Yeah. And so with that, and the fact that it's a tiring endeavor anyway, I just wasn't able to get enough oxygen in to function properly. So I didn't feel very good. He did say, well, usually people will get, because the solution is to go down, because so people can get evacuated off the mountain. I was like, well, I've already come down. Do you know what I mean? This is what the effects I'm feeling now are the effects from what has happened from coming down from the summit. I'm already 2,000 meters down from there, so I really want to go down, and I want to go to sleep. So
did you feel better then as you descended, or were you?
I was right as rain the next day.
Oh, really? Right,
yeah. And just came down the next day, and and that was that. We got picked up by the Russia wagon. Do you know what? This is a really strange way that I became interested in mountains. There was a BBC Storyville. Don't know if you ever see Storyville documentaries on the BBC, but there was one that came out years ago now, and it was actually about an accident on K2.
Right.
And basically, K2 is very, very difficult. It's much harder than Everest. Different kettle of fish altogether. And a load of people died on this expedition. They needed fixed ropes to go up. There was a bit of ice fell down, broke the fixed ropes. Loads of them got stuck up there, and can't remember off the top of my head how many died, but a few. Right. I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole then for years. I mean, I still do have an interest in it, but it's strange the things that trigger an interest. Like, I was interested in that because I just thought that is just a phenomenal feat of human
I totally
perseverance, but it's tragic at the same time. Yeah. But it's kind of that that edge, that danger that people seek out.
The joke is for everybody at the bottom of Everest was once a motivated person.
Right, yeah, sure.
But my first one was, there is a late 90s documentary kicking around where they found George Mallory.
They found George Mallory?
Yes, he'd been there since 1928.
Yeah, I guess it was.
They don't know if he actually.
They think it's Mallory, don't they?
Well, that's
he had his name and everything.
Oh,
the one they couldn't.
Who's the one they can't find?
Irvine. That was
Irvine.
That's right.
Yeah,
the reason Irvine
is
more is they don't know if Mallory made it up, because the way they think is that they died on the way back down.
Right.
The reason they're upset is at some point Mallory must have gone, hold my camera, and gave it to Irvine.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
They found, and obviously he's literally there. That he's got like a. My granddad had the same jumper. Do you know what I mean? With the cover on the shoulders, hobnail boots, and his skin is still on his body.
Yeah.
Because he's mummified. So they covered him. But when it's done, they cover him back up and give him a proper grave. but they think they know that there's stories of a guy dressed in this, because they basically went up there in tweed suits, long socks, and whatever. They think they know where he is, but it's just you're not getting there. But he's got the camera.
I like to sort of posit a different theory.
Ooh.
That he didn't say, hold my camera. I think he went, you're dead. I want to prove that I'm getting to the top. I'm having the camera.
Yeah, that seems likely. Yeah.
Because I think they found Mallory had a snapped leg. Like you can physically see the bone. It's snapped in.
Makes it be tough to climb a mountain.
And so I sat there and thought, oh, that's really random that his body survived. And then, like you said, then the first one that you find, green boots.
Yeah.
And then it's just everything from there. I can't remember what the American woman's name, where she died, sat up basically as you are now against her pack.
Well, I keep getting discouraged by whenever I bring up Everest. You keep saying, if you climb Everest, you'll just become another waypoint. and obviously, Kevin, I'm insulted by that.
Sorry, where are you? I'm next to that bloke from Yeovil.
Yeah. Fat guy, Pikachu hat,
I love
cigarette in
the
hand.
fact that you think you'd get the fuck up there.
No, I don't think that. I think I'd love to go to base camp.
Yes.
I don't think I'd climb. I would never be because of my lung capacity.
Two of the guys that I was on Elbrus with did base camp.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, but
That's
my
insane.
smoker's lung
Anywhere where
capacity
there
would
is
never.
a place where it's called the death zone. Where
Yeah,
once you go
yeah.
above it, your brain is basically dying every minute
Yeah.
that you're above.
I just think because I've smoked for 20-something years, my lungs capacity is just fucked. I would never be able to. I would need.
But used to lack of oxygen.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Yeah.
Like you said there, you've been trying. You were doing stuff that you thought, right, I can do that. Might be a bit of a push. As a normal person, if I trained a bit, I can do that.
Yeah.
Those people are starting to go up there.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that they get shoppers get real upset. They need them for the income, but they get really upset with like these millionaires who are like just want to have something.
How many
to talk
times have you
about
done
at a tea
this?
party.
Never.
Yeah.
Have you ever climbed a mountain
But
before?
here's 50
No.
grand for the day, and here's 50 grand for another day, and they're like, okay.
But for the sake of brevity and time, we'll dive into Everest and we'll get you back
we need
in for
beers
a
for that
separate.
one.
Yeah, for a separate.
Yeah, if you want to meet the pub, we'll go to the pub and go down a proper rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Yeah, because Everest is dark. Because I just read. Do you know the Hillary's biography? And it's very good. And the autobiography and the biography about him that was written in 2020.
Is it Tonge, his
Tenzing Norgay.
Yeah,
where they're
that's
like,
it.
did he make it? Did he make it? Which one of you was actually first? They're never going to say that.
But again, I'll let me just draw the line there so we can get back on James.
Yes.
Otherwise, we've done it. So mate. So firstly, thank you for sharing the stories with us. That's
It's my
fucking
pleasure.
really cool. That's the coolest story's been told in this garage so
and
far.
for masculine shit out of it.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Really cool.
Breath walking up the hill to your house with George.
Yeah. So what was it? So we had some specific questions, didn't we, producer George?
Yes.
Oh, go George.
That was your cue to tell me what they were.
You're allowed to speak now, George.
Yeah.
Go to the toilet.
Oh yeah. So when you climb out, where do you? I've got much delicate. I should let you ask it. Where do you shit and piss on the mountain?
So
Where does one relieve oneself on the
So
mountain?
on Elbrus is interesting. Well, not interesting. It's disgusting. At the high camp there is a long drop toilet. So this is an area that stays relatively cold for the entire all year round. So you kind of walk away from the camp, and there is they have put a shed around it, so no one can see you. But it's basically a platform with a hole in it, and beneath it is the collective memories of 10,000 meals, just deposited.
Oh, I see. So you just
It's
deposit
an ice
underneath
shit
it.
as it falls.
Yeah,
I
so
see,
It's
so-
a hole. It's just a platform with a hole in it.
right. I see. Right. Hey, well, now we
Not
know.
be around the bush, and
Yeah.
and above that, you just eat whatever's going to bung you up, so you don't have to go.
Yeah. You don't want to get your fucking ring piece out of fucking
Yeah.
6,000.
Digestive biscuit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Biscuit
what about?
rounds.
So what was that? Elbrus? Did you say?
That's Elbrus,
What
yeah.
about
And
Kilimanjaro?
Kitty, they have it's a bit more established. They do have blocks with toilets in. But again, toilet is maybe giving it a little bit more credit than it's due. It's a very similar situation. It's a hole
Yeah.
with two pads on. You just have to. It's good if you manage to get one that somebody else hasn't already made a bit of a mess in.
Oh right. I see.
But
That's
again,
part of
they
the-
change a little bit. Some of them are made of wood. Some of them are made of
Yeah.
ceramic tiles. It's
Oh.
yeah. But
Yeah.
luckily, as a bloke, to be honest, it's a bit easier.
We
Just,
can-
try
we
not
can
to go for a
Yeah.
Do it on the go.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
even
try not to
then,
go for a poo.
We'll carry one out in the middle of the field.
I didn't have too many poos, to be perfectly honest.
How many poos did you have?
I
James?
can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember.
So what was
Yeah.
what was the other specific question?
About money, really.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
cost wise,
We
yeah.
talked about Everest on We will say no, cost a fortune.
Yeah, so Everest was. Yeah, I think the last one I saw, Ant Middleton paid 60 grand for
Yeah.
Everest and stuff. So what is it for? If anyone's thinking, man, that sounds fucking interesting, I'm
Yeah.
interested in it. So what Kilimanjaro? What was it? What did that set you back?
So Kilimanjaro, I mean, it's a few years ago now. Unfortunately, you know, COVID and everything has kind of put the kibosh on
Yeah.
adventures for a couple of years. So I think my package with the guide company was 1,500 roughly. Obviously, with current inflation rate, that's probably about 25 grand now.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, yes, I think I paid 1,500 for the guide, and then I think the flights were roughly maybe 800. I think
So
all up,
it's
I think all up,
really.
it was about 2.5.
Yeah.
But don't specifically
Yeah.
quote me.
What
on
about
that. I
Elbrus?
was-
More expensive because the
So I
gears.
actually think Elbrus was cheaper. Actually,
Oh, yeah.
I think potentially it'd be quite a lot more expensive if you haven't got any kit at all that's going to be suitable for walking on a glacier. Certainly the flights were cheaper, and I believe the guiding was cheaper as well. But then Russia, if you're actually in Russia, it's more expensive than being in Tanzania to buy things. So, you know, there's a couple of
Oh, I
days
see.
either side where you're in Russia.
All I can see in my head now is Crazy Ivan with his bubble hat on and his budgie suit.
He was a key staple in that whole story, wasn't he, for me?
Yeah.
What
He
I'm gonna do
doesn't
is,
even exist, and he's up there. Come on, James, hurry,
come on,
hurry.
you pussy!
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is, when you send me the pictures, I'm going to superimpose Ivan into all the pictures. Actually, he followed you right up the mountain.
Our guide was called Vasily.
Vasily.
Yeah.
Nice, lovely
I
name.
remember that.
So, mate, thank you.
Vasily.
So, those were the specific questions that we wanted. Kev, have you got any questions
No,
for James
no,
before we
no.
go? Is there anything you think people should know before we wrap it up?
No, not really. Just, I mean, if anybody's interested in doing that sort of thing, just contact me on social media.
Where
or
can people
whatever.
find you, mate, on Instagram? and stuff?
Instagram probably the easiest. James_doing_things.
It's been a real pleasure having you on the show, man. You're natural. You're a great storyteller. You've really painted a picture for us, and I'm very actually glad and proud to have that on the Steve Kayla show, like on our
Thanks.
podcast. So-
It's been a pleasure, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, if I ever do anything interesting over Argentina direction, if you're interested in hearing about it,
Just
I'll
come
be
back
happy
on,
to-
yeah.
happy to-
So, listener, thank you so much for listening to the Steve Kayla Show. If you enjoyed that episode, please consider subscribing or clicking the follow button on Spotify, giving us a 5-star review. You can find Kevin. Do you promote your Instagram or anything very much, or do you got anything
Why
to
the
push
hell
on
would
there?
anyone, I know, I don't really use social media like that, do I? I just
No.
send you annoying stuff.
Yeah. That's not nice. Good stuff when I get round to it, but I let it build up. And you can find James.
Bang.
Yeah, I have got. For you and our friend Lee, they both just send me. I ignore it for months, and then I get a nice collection of stuff I can scroll through. So thank you, boys. Thank you both for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all next week. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Hiya, you're right. Hi, everyone.